Hello everyone and welcome to another video with me, Stockholm Plane Spotting. Today we're going to look at the cold and dark setup of the Fenix Airbus A320-200 in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I am not a real airline pilot and this is not intended for real world use. In today's video we are at Stockholm Arlanda Airport in cold and dark state. So let's jump into the flight deck and the cockpit. Okay, so here we are in the cockpit of the Fenix A320. And what we first need to do is, first of all, if you wanted to have in a cold and dark state, what you need to do is then click on panel states and then cold and dark default. This is the one I have as default, and then click on activate. Now the entire cockpit should be in cold and dark state. So that's how you set it up, like that. Okay, so next we're gonna import the flight plan from SimBrief. So just click tap to import. And today's flight is going to be from Stockholm Arlanda to Copenhagen. And you get some information here. We can see the route which we're going to fly and also the METAR. We have departure information, arrival information, and so on. Okay, and we'll go to mass and balance here. So next we're going to load the aircraft. We'll load both the fuel and cargo and also the passengers. For this tutorial I'm just going to load it very quickly. You can choose different options here. If you have GSX, then it will take, like in real time, it will take about 27 minutes, fast time 9 minutes, but in this case we're just gonna choose the instant one. There we go, aircraft has now been loaded. We can see now that we have 4,432 kilos loaded in the cargo and also fuel 6,040 and in tank 6,040 for the fuel and 180 passengers on board. Here we also get the zero fuel weight and also max zero fuel weight and gross weight and so on. Okay, so here we are then. First we are going to check that the parking brake is on. Parking brake is indeed on. And then we're going to check that the spoilers are retracted and disarmed. They are retracted and disarmed. And then we're going to make sure that the rudder trim is set to 0. It's indeed set to 0. And then we'll make sure that the flaps are retracted. They are indeed retracted. Engine masters, we're going to make sure that they are in the off position. Here is the engine masters, and also that the engine mode selector are in the norm position. So this is how it should be. Okay, all good. And then we need to make sure that the thrust levels are set to idle. They are indeed set to idle. And after that we are going to check the weather radar, make sure it's in the off position. You can see the weather radar here. So this is the weather radar and it's indeed off when it's in the middle. And also predict the wind shear. Make sure that it's also in the off position. And that's all good. Next we'll go to the anti-skid and make sure that's on. And it is indeed on right here. After that we need to make sure that the landing gear is in the down position, and it is indeed in the down position, so all good. Wipers, we're going to make sure that they are in the off position. We have two wipers here, one here, and that's indeed in the off position, and the other one here also in the off position. After that we'll turn on the batteries. So we'll start with battery 1 and battery 2. Battery 1 and battery 2. The external power is available, so we'll turn that on. Right, then we'll set the strobe lights to auto. And cockpit light is going to be as required. Today we're flying in daytime, so we don't need to do anything inside the cockpit with the lights. After that we'll align the ADIRS. We'll do that with the left one first, and then with the right one set them to nav, and then the middle one set them to nav. We'll also make sure that this light goes on, or on and then off. So now it's indeed off. Okay, after that then we'll go and turn on the seatbelt sign. Here is the seatbelt sign. Seatbelt sign is on. Non-smoking will set it to auto, and also emergency exit lights will turn into arm. There we go. Then we're going to test the annunciator lights, so we'll have this one to the test position, and you can see that all the lights now goes on, and make sure that they are all lit. Alright, I'll turn it back to the off here. Oops, there we go. The ADIRS will take some time to load, so we turn them to nav here. Then you can see on the monitor here, it says IR in a line, about 7 minutes, so it will take 7 minutes before it will take the position of the flight and it will be visible here. Now it says GPS primary lost, so that will be fixed in 7 minutes. Alright, but meanwhile we can prepare the MCDU. So we're gonna go back here, we're gonna send this again to the MCDU since it was off the last time. There we go, success. We'll go down here to the MCDU and we'll click init. Init request, so this is gonna get the flight plan from the sim brief. And we'll wait a few seconds, and there we go. So today's flight is from Stockholm Arlanda to Copenhagen in Denmark. And today's flight we are Scandinavian Airlines 551. So we're gonna enter Scandinavian Airlines 551, or SAS 551. And this will go into the flight numbers. We'll click it here. There we go. And for today's cost index, we can have a look here at the sim brief information. We have the pilot brief information here, and here we can see that we have the cost index is 15 CI 15. So we're going to enter 15 into the cost index. Cruising flight level today is gonna be 0300, so this is flight level 300, 30,000 feet. So we're gonna enter that here. So what we do then is we'll clear this message. AUK act flight plan uplink, we just clear it here. Nav anchor downgraded, GPS privately, and so on. Just clear all the messages there, and then enter 300 and click here, and that will give you the cruising flight level and also the temperature. Alright, and then we'll go to the wind here. We're gonna do wind request so we can get all the winds, and we need to wait a little bit. There we go. Here we have the winds, and then we're gonna click it again so it becomes green. There we go, and then we're gonna insert it. Right, so next we are going to prepare for the runway departure, and for this flight we're going to depart from runway 26, and then we'll click here and click on departure, and then we can scroll here by using the arrows here up and down. So we're gonna scroll or use the arrows to go down until we see the runway 26. Here is the runway 26, so we click on that. And after that we need to select the SID, the route for departure. So in this case we are going to actually PTV 1K. So we're gonna select the PTV 1K, and it's this one. And then we click on insert. So there we go. And now we have the correct for the departure. After that we can also enter the arrival already. We click on Copenhagen and then arrival. Okay, so for the arrival we are going to check here. Let's see, we are expected to land at runway 22 right, and using the airnav 3C for the star. So let's have a look for the arrival 22. I forgot if it was right or left. It was the right, 22 right. Let's select it here, and after that we're going to select the star, and I forgot that too, so we're gonna check here again. It says airnav 3C, airnav 3C. Let's see if we can find it. There we go, airnav 3C. We click that and then insert. Alright, and now we have the flight plan. All good. Right, we can see the IR is still aligning. We have about 2 minutes, 1 minute left now. So therefore it's not showing anything here, but it will come soon. Now then, let's make sure that we have some information here. We don't have any speed and so on. So what we need to do then is we're gonna go back here to the EFB and click here to the main menu, and then we'll go for the departure perf. So click on that one. Today the weather seems to be quite dry and nice, so we're gonna select the runway 26 for departure, and the runway surface is dry. And for the aircraft configuration, we're gonna select the 1+F today. No anti-ice and packs. We're gonna sync the load sheet final and sync live weather, and then calculate. So here we have the V1 speed 144 and VR 144 and V2 146. So what we now can do is we can get all of this information into the MCDU by clicking send to MCDU, and there we go. If we look now on the same page, on the perf page here, this has now been filled in. It's very smooth and handy, so we don't need to do anything more about that. Right. Now we can also go back here and we see that the temperature today is 15 degrees. We have winds at 240 and 40 knots. QNH is 1005, and this is information that we are going to enter here. So we go here with the QNH here and scroll until it's 1005. Make sure it's set into HPA and not in the other one. So like that. Then we go to the other side and select the same QNH here. 1005. All good. And 1005 also down here. There we go. Now we have set the correct QNH, and we can now also see that the IR in a line has been aligned as this display comes to life, and we can see the plane here and the route we're gonna fly. We can have a little zoom out and see how the route is gonna be. Here is the PTV for the departure as we set up in the FMC, and if we zoom out further on here, 160 nautical miles away, we can then see the entire route here. Looks a little bit strange here. Looks like we have some disconnectivity here, so we are going to fix that. Probably it should say something here in the MCDU. So we go back here, click on flight plan, and we're gonna click on this up arrow to scroll down, and most likely we're going to see some flight plan discontinuity. And here we have indeed flight plan discontinuity. So we're gonna clear that, and the way to clear that is we click on clear, remove all the messages here first by pressing clear. Now we press it again. As you can see, it says clear, CLR, and then we'll click on manual. So we clear the manual, and then we click on clear again, and we'll clear the flight plan discontinuity. After that, we'll click on insert temporary. And there we go. Now we don't have any discontinuity here. This is just after we have landed, so that's all fine. If we go back to the flight plan in the beginning, we can now see that it's indeed connected, and we don't have any discontinuity until at the very end here. So it's all good, and we can also see now, if we look at the chart, or well, the radar here, we can see that it's all looking much better. We have a line to the runway 22 right. Alright, so let's move on then. We are also gonna send the weights if we, just to make sure that it's in the MCDU. We'll go to the Fenix, mass and balance, and then we have already loaded the aircraft. We're gonna send this information to the MCDU, and success. So it has now been sent with all the weights. Right. So we are pretty much good to go then, and what we also need to set, we're gonna set up the constraints. And constraints. For this specific flight, the transition altitude or initial climb altitude is 5,000 feet. So I'm going to enter that, 5,000 feet. This is something you can find in your charts. If you have Navigraph or something, you can see that. You can see the charts here if you click on the main menu, and I have Navigraph, so you can have a look here. This is Stockholm Arlanda, so click on start here, and then for the airport information, no, actually wrong one, for this one, for the departure. It's going to say the initial climb here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. Initial climb clearance is 5,000 unless otherwise specified. So that's why we enter the 5,000 feet here. Alright, so let's move on. We're gonna turn on the terrain on. So we have that on. Constraints, we have the constraints on here and also on here. So that means that we can see any constraints coming up here. We can see that we have constraints here further on. We need to be at flight level or below flight level 110 at 250 knots later on here. Yeah, so that's all good. We'll set the VOR to 1 here and also to 1 here. Good, so let's see. We have set up the MCDU, all good now. Then now we can turn on the predicting wind shear. This is here. Now it's on. We're also going to lock the cockpit door. Now it is closed, but it's not locked. We have some passengers aboard. We're going to close the door, and now we're going to lock the door. So how you lock the door is you have this little thing here, and you'll move it to the lock position, and now the door is locked. Okay, that's all good. We're going to change the EFIS to a shorter distance here, so set it to 10 nautical miles instead, so we can see as we departure here, and also going to do the same on the other one here. Right, that has been set, all good. Flight directors, we are going to make sure that they are both on. Flight directory is indeed on here, and flight directory is on here, all good, check. After that, we are going to do some APU fire test and engine fire test. So we'll start with the APU, hold this for a few seconds. APU fire test is on, working. And the engine 1 is also working, and engine 2 fire test is also working. All good. Alright, so now we are going to start the APU. We'll click here, mouse the switch on. Then we need to wait a few seconds before we can click start here. And there we go. Now the APU is starting up. And the APU is this one back here. So that's now coming to life. Right, so we are then going to turn on the crew supply oxygen. That is now on. G&D CTL, we'll also turn that on. And this is for recording voices. So we have the crew oxygen supply on, and we're now going to turn on the fuel pumps. We have the fuel pumps located here. We'll turn them on. They are now in off. So we turn them on. Now they are on. All good. And navigation lights can come on. We have navigation lights here. Let's turn them on. And after that, we are going to turn on the APU bleed once this one says available. The start is now available for the APU. So we're going to turn on the APU bleed, and now it's on. Alright, and with that on, we can now disconnect the GPU. We have the GPU. Let's see, it's over there. That's the GPU providing power to the aircraft. So with the APU on now, we can now turn off that. And you do that by clicking the external power here. Now it's on, we'll turn it off. We can also disconnect it here on the FB. Go to the menu, and then you'll click on ground services, and you can see this is the GPU connected. We're gonna disconnect that now. We don't need it anymore. Okay, all good. So let's see, the navigation lights is on. Now we're going to turn on the beacon lights, and we are ready for pushback. So in this case, I have GSX. So we're gonna do a prepare for pushback and departure. And just select anyone, Scandinavian Airlines in this case. And we'll wait for them to push back. Let's go back into the cockpit here. Now what we need to do soon, we are going to release the parking brake.
Departure checks completed. Bypass pin inserted.
Any second now they will ask us to release the parking brake. Also, one thing we need to do is release the chocks and cones here. Click on Fenix and then the main board here, and then Fenix, and then chocks and cones disconnected.
Locking gear.
And now they're locking the gear. As you can see, the plug is coming here. And very soon they will ask us to release the parking brake, which is currently on. Right, before that we're gonna select how they want to do the pushback, how we want them to do the pushback. In this case we're just gonna do a straight pushback with the manual stop. So we select then that.
Release parking brakes, please.
And here comes the release parking brake. We'll release the parking brake.
Commencing push.
And now they're starting to do the push.
Clear. Start at wheel.
And we're clear to start the engines when we want to. So how we do that is we'll go back here and we'll turn the norm selector to start to the right. And after that we'll start with the engine 2 in this case. Turn it on. And you can then see here that the engine is starting up. So the engine number 2 is starting up now. Then we wait for a little bit. And when that has been all started up, we'll start the engine number 1. You can still see it's starting up here. 52%, 54%, and 2. Alright, and there we go. And we are going to set the parking brake again. So let's do that. Parking brake is set.
Confirmation for a good engine start.
And we're gonna wait for the confirmation. We have not started the engine number 1, so let's do that. We'll leave this one in the start position and then just click start for the engine number 1. And now you can see here the engine number 2 is starting up also. And we can see it here also for visual reference. And we're gonna wait for that to also finish starting up. %, and we are soon going to confirm to GSX here. If you don't have GSX, you can just push back using Shift P, and that will push you back. On the keyboard you press Shift and then P, and it will push you back. Then you don't need to confirm good engine start and so on. Alright, soon we'll start it up here. There we go, we have a good engine start also. All good. So what we now need to do, if you have GSX, we're going to confirm a good engine start.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
And they will disconnect.
Unlocking gear.
We're also gonna move this one back to norm position. Like that. And now as the engines are running, which they indeed are, now we can turn off the APU. So we'll turn off the APU here, and APU bleed. Alright, and we are then ready for taxiing. So before the taxiing, we're gonna set on the transponder. We have the transponder down here. If you fly in VATSIM, this is also where you set the squawk code. You'll click on clear here, you see it says 2000, this is the squawk code. Let's just make someone up here. We have 3551 3551 as our squawk code today. We're gonna turn on the transponder, set it to TARA, this will make it visible, and also the standby position will have it on. And that's all you need to do there. Right, and then we need to arm the spoilers for taxiing and takeoff. So you pull this one up like that. Now you can see it's armed. And then we're going to set the auto brake for rejected takeoff, and this you find here, auto brake, and you set it to max. Now it's on. Check. And then we'll go to the nose lights and set it to taxi. So we have the taxi lights here. Here you can see the nose lights will turn into taxi. Now it's on to taxi. And after that we are going to turn on the runway lights. Right there. And then also we are going to turn on the weather radar. And the weather radar you'll find down here. And now it's on. Okay, and we are going to set the flaps to flaps 1. You can also see a reminder here. It says takeoff. We have the blue ones that we need to check before everything is clear here. So we'll set the flaps to 1. Flaps set to 1. And now this one, the blue text here is removed because the flaps has now indeed been set to flaps 1. Alright, so that's it basically. We're gonna do a takeoff config test. We'll click the takeoff config test here, and that is all normal, so that's all good. So this is the button you press. So all good there. And we are then going to start the chrono here. You can click this one. This is before you start taxiing. So it starts a counter here, and there's nothing else you need to do with that. And that's basically how you do it. Now we get an error message here. This is just the default bug for the flight simulator. You can just click that here if you get this bug, as I do, and then click on clear to clear the message. Very soon the cabin will say that they are now ready for departure. And how you activate that is you go down here, and this one is going to flicker. So you click on that and then turn it on, and then the cabin crew will say that they are ready. And that's how you get rid of this check mark here. But that's basically how you do it. So from cold and dark to up and running with both engines on and ready for taxi. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you do, please hit the like and the subscribe button, and good luck with your flying. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Bye for now.